They're excited. It's Kevin Kenny, the Build Series live in New York City. And our guest today, standing right to my side here, that you're going to see in just a few moments, is just 22 years old and has already garnered comparisons to Fiona Apple, Stevie Nicks, and maybe my favorite comparison, Jeff Buckley. Please give a warm welcome. She's back, Madison Cunningham. How are you, Madison?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. You know what? Not enough guests ask how I'm doing.
Oh, that's
I'm just gonna put that out there, all right? Note to future guests. No, but this is cool. This might be the first time ever. Not that I'm a build encyclopedia, but you were here prior as part of a backing band or part of a larger ensemble when Andrew Bird stopped by the show. Right. And now you're here, front row and center, as the star of the show. So I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I'm glad to be back.
Yeah. Now you are 22 years old, and as I just said, you've gotten these comparisons. When you hear people compare you to somebody like Fiona Apple, is that somebody that you listened to growing up? Is that somebody whose music you really respect and enjoy?
Totally. Yeah, I didn't listen to her growing up necessarily, but when I got into when I turned 20 was probably when I really started to get into her. And so yeah, it's a huge compliment to me to be considered in the likes of people like them. So
have you ever been compared to somebody and you go, wow, I don't hear that at all?
Yeah, mainly bands that I've never heard before.
Do you ever go and look up the band and you're like, yeah, maybe, but like, that's kind of interesting, right?
I do sometimes. I'm usually pretty bad at doing that, following up with that, but I do. I'm out of curiosity. I do.
The Stevie Nicks comparison must just be one of the most complimentary things you've ever heard, right?
Yeah, and actually, I don't even totally hear that. But
right.
Yeah, goodness, I'll take it.
Yeah.
I'll take it, yeah.
Who do you hear, if you did hear anybody? Like, I'm not talking influences, but like maybe when you hear the end product, right, you go, yeah, I hear a little bit of that. I can see that. There's an argument to be had there. Is there anybody?
I would say Jeff Buckley a little bit, because he really, really is such a deep, deep influence and has had a deep influence on me. So I think I catch myself sometimes, and I kind of ask the question at the end, like, is it too much like Jeff, or are we pulling too much from that stream? And I think there's nothing wrong with it, but I think influences are like a crush you have to get over at some point. You're like,
oh, absolutely.
Yeah, that was great for the time, but you have to find your own sound. But in Joni sometimes, I feel like maybe my vocal inflections sound like her a little bit. And I try and avoid that one, because to me, she's a master. I don't even want to joke around about.
Yeah, don't jinx yourself, right?
Yeah, totally.
But I like that analogy of a crush you have to get over with those early influences, because I think when you're starting out as a musician, the band Incubus was on Build recently, and they were talking about how their first few records, they just sound like they're trying to sound like the Chili Peppers or whoever brought them up. But then record 3, record 4, that's when you really sort of own your sound.
Yeah, and most artists that I look up to, I'll admit to having someone that they've really tried to emulate. But I think that at some point it just has to be something that you sort of leave behind, and you always credit, but you go, well, I have to find something else, because this has already been said and it'll fall on deaf ears, and there's no use in trying to be, if you try to be someone exactly, you'll be second best.
Yeah,
always.
First-rate version of yourself, right? As the old poster or whatever.
And that's really wishy-washy talk sometimes, because it's really hard to find that. It's easier said than done.
Oh, absolutely. So a lot of people, I would say most fans, casual fans, know Jeff Buckley as the Hallelujah guy, right? Beautiful song that Jeff did. But why does his music connect to you so deeply? It must go so much further past that song.
Well, I mean, first of all, his voice is so singular, and you can identify it kind of wherever it plays, in whatever store or coffee shop. Like, it's Jeff. It's unmistakable. But I think for me, it has to be like his melodies and how bold he was with them. He was like, he was shameless and put sort of strings of chord progressions together that didn't really make sense, but do make sense. But he's just so original at it. I think Grace was the first song that really stuck with me, and then Lover, You Should Have Come Over. I think he's a great lyricist too. Yeah, I think he has his own unique stamp on that.
Did you start singing, or did you pick up the guitar at 7?
I sang first, so around 4. This doesn't sound real, but it was like for fun. It wasn't anything professional at all. And then 7 is when I started kind of strumming around on a guitar.
Who or what inspires you to pick up the guitar at 7 years old?
My dad He was a guitar player, and he just was always doing it any free moment that he had. So to me, it was kind of sea monkey. You know, I was trying to copy him.
Was it a house where you'd watch a lot of MTV or music videos? Were there any early impressions there of music, or was it more like, was your dad playing records? Like, what was your first introduction?
No, he was never playing records. He was always just kind of playing chords or writing a song himself.
Interesting.
He was also a writer. So, yeah, I honestly was introduced to big records way later in the game because I also, grew up in a religious background where we didn't really listen to, I don't know, secular music.
Yeah.
So yeah, like my first Beatles record I listened to when I was probably 17.
Okay.
But my dad, we had records playing. They just weren't like necessarily the classics.
Yeah. You know, that's a really pure way to fall in love with music, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to, you might be a young person and you see some celebrity singer on screen and you may think you want to do that, but what are you really gravitating towards, right? Are you gravitating towards the fame, the celebrity, the dancing,
right?
The cinematography of whatever you're watching, right? It doesn't inherently have to be the music, but I think when you start with something like chords, and if you gravitate towards that, that's a really true and deep love.
Totally, yeah, exactly. Because I think it's what's popular now is YouTubers, and it's a lot of people doing covers, which there's nothing wrong with that, but I do feel like I was able to fall in love with music on a sort of uneducated level where I was writing and playing music without knowing who Joni Mitchell was and playing in open tunings as well before I heard her. So in a way, I'm thankful for the sort of blindness that I had to the outside world for a while.
Yeah, ignorance is bliss.
Sometimes, yeah.
Certainly. I know it's funny you say that in regards to music because I know a lot of bands and artists that we had a band named Whitney on. I don't know if you ever listened to Whitney, but they
sounds familiar.
Yeah, two-piece that were on. They have a new record coming out, whatever. But they were on the show last week, and they were saying they don't like to listen to any music when they're making an album, right? Because again, those blinders I think can lead to great art.
Yeah.
Even growing up.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I tend to not listen to music when I'm making a record as well.
Interesting.
For the sake of trying to stay focused and
because
it's easy when you're in a jam to be like, oh, they did that, so maybe we'll just take from that, But to really be in a place where you're challenged to do something new or scary,
Yeah. And speaking of records coming out, you got a new record, Who Are You Now, coming out next month. Remind me of the name of the song that you wrote about. The title's escaping right now, but I want to talk to you about the topic behind it. The hesitation, right, that arises before you totally give yourself to someone.
Right. Yeah, that's called Something to Believe In.
Something to Believe In. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm going to play that later. No, it's okay.
Oh, you're going to play it? Oh,
yeah,
fantastic. That really struck me when I heard about the backstory of that song because that hesitation that really comes up in all of us before we totally let go in a relationship, friendship. It can be romantic. Maybe sometimes it's not. It's that period of time, though, it depends on the person how long it lasts, right? How long the hesitation is. Some people jump right in. Some people, depending on your past experiences, right? Like that can be a totally different process. What does that process look like for you?
Well, I think I've always kind of like hoped that I would run into a situation where everything looked perfect from the outside and to know that I could fully trust it. But I think what I've realized about trust and love is that it's a risk, and it's also it's almost a promise that the other person will fail you inevitably, but it's a promise that they'll never stop trying.
Yeah.
It's something good and it's something worth fighting for.
I think you've said in the past, I guess the truest form of love is sort of accepting that there isn't this faultless hero.
Yes.
Right? Did you learn that lesson, though, by trying to chase a faultless hero or somebody that you saw as a faultless hero in your mind?
Yeah, I mean, I think just having mentors, through certain points of my life who have maybe not been that, perfect person that they've made themselves out to be. And so I've always found it to be very disappointing and crushing and sort of, tried to find a way the next time that I found someone that I really looked up to sort of alleviate them from that pedestal, to still be able to look up to them, but to also be like, but you're human and I want to see that.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to be crushed every time someone fails, because that's what we do. That's what we're kind of born to do, is to fail. So.
Well, especially when you're young too, and sometimes you look back and you go, well, wait, did they present themselves as a faultless hero, or did I make them a faultless hero?
Exactly.
Did I look past all of these, inadequacies or red flags, if you will?
Yeah, and I think now I've realized someone that would present themselves that way is usually someone that I don't really want to be friends with.
Oh yeah, I get real leery of people that seem a little bit too, put together. If
Yeah.
you will, right?
Yeah,
There's no
exactly.
flaws. You made the record at Sonic Ranch, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Now I've been told, or I've read, I should say, that your music kind of went to a totally new level, like something new, like something was really inspired in you by being at Sonic Ranch.
I think it was fear.
Okay, that drove you.
I do, yeah. Because I think fear can go one of two ways. It can either be crippling or it can be ambition. And for me, it was like coming off of the road, and I had maybe a couple of days to turn around off of a tour and go to Sonic Ranch and hope that all the songs were in line, all 14 songs. And it was like a long year of writing songs that were good and then some that were just bad or not good enough and not great. Yeah, so for me, just that moment of like, okay, here we are. I'm going to look this thing in the eyes and I'm going to go for it. And even if that means that we walk away with something that we're not stoked with, it's okay. Like we can try again. And so I tried my best to just turn that sort of anxiety and fear into like ambition and to just take courage.
Have you always worked that way as an artist, like best under pressure, or was this a learning experience for yourself?
Yeah. Since meeting, I've been working with a producer named Tyler Chester for about 6 years now. And his idea for me was to kind of record live, which was totally strange to the way I had learned it growing up. So for me, that was a form of pressure that ended up being really good. And I think performing live is definitely a form of pressure. And to learn how to exercise that muscle and to succeed at it is hard, but I think it's proven really helpful for me because it means hard work and practice behind the scenes, and you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, I think under pressure is not my favorite feeling, but my favorite feeling after the outcome of it,
Right.
after the hard work is put in.
And a darn good Queen song.
Yeah, exactly. Good reference.
Yeah. You spoke briefly just before in our conversation about, kind of the state of YouTubers, right, and vloggers and sort of like cover culture, if you will, right?
Right.
How do you navigate that as a young artist? Do you feel pressure to do that in terms of establishing yourself? Because it seems like, that is the path to success. There's so many overnight stories nowadays, right, of, they did a cover of this person and,
Right.
they got a deal, if you will. And
no, I don't feel the pressure to do it, but I have found the fun in it. Like I've been doing this weekly series where I'll record a cover of, whatever artist I've been thinking about that week, and we'll put it out every Wednesday. We've been doing that for 27 weeks.
Wow.
Which feels like a long time now, and we're trying to do it for the rest of the year. But now that it's on record, I have to make the disclaimer that might not happen.
Okay.
But we're trying to make it happen, and it's actually I understand the reason for it. It's super, super fun to do, and it's actually really helpful as a writer to learn other people's songs and as a guitar player. It's helpful to learn how someone else thought of chords and melody lines and all of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't necessarily feel the pressure to make that my career. I think it's an important part of it. You compromise a little bit to what the industry is excited about.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if I'm reading too much into it, but is there something to be said about the artwork here? Because it's beautiful.
Thank
and
you.
Is there a message behind it?
I really wanted to find a way to not have just a picture of myself, like some glamorous beauty shot or whatever, and I wanted some sort of an illustration, and I was trying to find a way to kind of merge two images together to kind of show that you can be different people, because it kind of goes with the title, Who Are You Now?
Right.
And so this LA artist that I loved named Alex Berg, this was her interpretation of what I sort of described her. So she took an actual picture of me and just layered it into two people. And I liked that idea a lot.
I mean, this is almost the artistic representation of your past year, because this has been a massive transitional year for you, I understand.
Yeah, totally. A lot has changed. I made a full-length record, went on tour, signed with a label, all those fun things.
And you moved too, right? Am I right?
Yeah, I moved from Costa Mesa, Orange County, out of my parents' house to Los Angeles, and it's very different.
Yeah. What is it? Is it overwhelming being an artist in LA these days? I just feel like there's so much going on there. Everyone's over there.
It is, but I feel like I found my friends, and that makes it really fun.
Yeah.
And the moments of stress are easily disarmed by the joy that comes with playing with people that you love and the trust that comes with that as well. There's definitely a good mix of both.
Yeah. And as we know, you work well under pressure.
Yeah.
So there you go.
So well. Also, don't quote me on that because that might change at some point.
We're going to get to a couple of audience questions before you are nice enough to perform a couple songs for us. The first is going to come from behind me over here. What's your name?
Bridget, hi, nice to meet you.
Hi, you too.
I was wondering if you had a guilty pleasure song that maybe you jam out to in the shower that you don't want anyone else to hear you sing to.
I'm so excited to answer this question. The first thing that comes to my head is Toxic by Britney Spears.
Wow.
It's my favorite.
That's great. Are you going to be performing that today?
No. I've actually have thought of ways to change it and perform it, like as in the cover series, but I don't know if that'll happen.
What is your approach to covers? Do you try to take it in a totally different direction, or do you try to honor the original work?
It changes. Some things I like to just honor the very straightforward version, but there's been times where I get joy out of kind of taking a hammer to a song that I love and switching it around. I think that's pretty interesting because as a listener, I would much rather just go listen to the original than someone trying to cover the original. So to kind of find a stamp of your own.
Yeah. Very cool.
Way to say it.
Time for one final question, and it'll come from right over here.
Hi. I wanted to ask, when you get writer's block, how do you fix that, or how do you get over that when you're writing?
Yeah. Oh man, I still am trying to find the answer to that question. But usually I just try. Sometimes for me, it's going to a different instrument. Like as opposed to my go-to guitar, I'll go to a piano or try just singing a melody and then putting whatever lyrics come to my head to that. One thing that I do that's really helpful is writing a short story a day. And so I'll set my alarm for 10 minutes and I'll take one object, or like Subway, for example, and I'll just write on that for 10 minutes. Then I'll have to stop when the alarm goes off. And sometimes, like when your subconscious is working, it feels very unjudged and you just go for it, and there's something that comes out and you're like, oh man, maybe that could be used in a song somehow. So I try and keep repetition a part of my lifestyle, so that it's not just like, okay, creativity, work for me, go now. Like there has to be sort of like a consistency that is maintained with it, I think. Which, yeah, I still am learning that for sure, but hopefully that helps.
I like that short story approach. It's really cool. It's the first time I've heard that.
Thank you.
Interesting.
It's pretty fun.
Yeah. Before we get out of your way so you can perform for us, we're very excited to hear that live. I do want to talk about tour, because you have quite a few dates coming up this year.
Mm-hmm.
If you're watching locally, you're playing LPR right here in the city, I believe this fall.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to be really cool. Have you ever been to that venue?
No, I
Oh,
haven't.
it's really intimate. I love seeing shows there. But tell us about this tour you're going on. Yeah,
well, it's a few different tours, starting with Iron and Wine in Calexico. Or actually, I think, is it Amos Lee that's happening first? Amos Lee is first, then Iron and Wine in Calexico, and then I get to join Lake Street Dive.
Oh, nice.
And then I get to join Andrew Bird again.
Oh, fantastic.
Which he was here just a little bit
These
ago.
are all former guests of Build. We should call this Build Fall Tour.
Yeah, that's great.
Amos Lee's the man.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Seriously.
Well, congratulations. And then the release date. I don't want to get this wrong of Who Are You Now?
August 16th.
August 16th, which will be here before we know it. Guys, one more time for Madison Cunningham.